Hi. Again, I'm recording something during my lunch break. I wanted to talk about the visits my dad would make. He didn't live with us, um, and I wanted to reconstruct the different visits because I guess that's some part of me. I like to make a timeline and get some sense of my past and where things fit in. Maybe it helps me continue on. Um, I like to know where I've been. Uh, from what I've reconstructed from records, not memory, I don't, I vaguely, sort of slightly remember living with my dad and my mom before Winnipeg. During that 1982, 83, was it 1982? No, 81, 82 year, which would be first grade, I was living in Winnipeg, and he absolutely didn't visit us. Um, my mom and dad and I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, and I don't know whether I should go into this, but at some point, it was just my mom and myself. We were in Winnipeg, um, and there was an incident I don't know whether I should get into. Um, and that may be related to my dad. And then after that, uh, 83, I was living in Binghamton with my mom, and I think he visited. I think that was the time when I remember that I would link with him going with me to the store. I linked that with him taking me to Catholic Mass. My mom is Jewish, well, was Jewish, and my dad was a devout Irish Catholic, and he took me to Catholic Mass. It's the only time I've been there. I mean, to one. My mom was upset about it. Um, that may have also been the visit. I mean, that visiting period when it was only, I think, during that summer, but it was visiting period when he took me shopping, and I said I liked um, I liked was it something like granola crunch, some kind of something like a granola crunch bar. I don't remember. Maybe it had peanut butter taste to it, but I pointed out I like that, and then he said, "Why don't you take it? Like, take one, something like that." And that made me feel happy because I guess at that point I was used to my mom um, mom and me having this negotiation or this feeling like I'd like to have it, but I can't because we can't afford it. So it felt nice for him to say that. Um, and I remember that was also the summer when Star Wars 6 Return of the Jedi came out. And I remember getting the comic book adaptation for it. Um, so he may have visited during that time. Uh, I remember the granola crunch bar, whatever it was, from having eaten them during long um, the long Greyhound bus trips that we would take in order to move. My mom would move like from Albany to Binghamton, and before that from Winnipeg. We never took any planes. It was all Greyhound bus. So it would have been my mom taking me from Ottawa to Winnipeg to Albany, before or after Winnipeg, and then to Liverpool, 13090 to 2nd Street. And it's not necessarily about my dad, but I remember settling into the upstairs floor of this house converted into 2 units on 2nd Street. And I remember the movers. There was a nice couple, a wife and husband, I imagine. and they would have been the ones to enable us to get the round chair. And I remember the kitchen. There was a curtain put up to divide up the kitchen room, so that I could have my bed there and privacy. So that would have been up through, that would have been from 1985, October 85, when we moved there, to about 1988, somewhere around 1988. I remember, maybe this is faulty, but it seems to align sort of. I remember watching the preview for the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Data Lore. So I imagine I was watching that. I would have been watching the Big Goodbye episode, and the preview for Data Lore would have been next. So it would have been probably during that week, and I remembered it snowing, so it would have been like January 1988, somewhere. So, so anyway, I don't remember him visiting when we were in the Second Street place, and then we moved to Lake Drive around that same time, January 1988. And I remember 7th grade, specifically because there was some girl that wanted me to get a buzz cut. And I remember her name, I just don't want to mention it. And there was a sort of an ongoing thing where I didn't want to get it because I imagined, I linked buzz cut hair with spiked hair and punks, and I didn't want to look like that. So at one point I went to a friend's house and he cut it, and then I came home and I felt awkward, like I was going to run into my dad and my mom and they would react negatively. But I remember my dad appreciating it, and that was definitely in 7th grade. So, and that would have been 1988, 89. So that would have been 1 year when he was visiting. And then I remember 1990, he showed up. He tended to show up just all of a sudden at the front door. 1990 would have been the fall, probably. And now, in more recent times, in the past year, I associated that with my bar mitzvah because he had a part in my bar mitzvah, and that's probably why he came. I remember, maybe it was this year, maybe it was the following year, when we were playing, I think school had been canceled, and I got out a board game of, I got out a board game of Monopoly, and we were playing on the floor. I always liked having him around because I felt like a full family with mother and father. So I had the bar mitzvah in 1990 in the fall. And then around close to my birthday, it would have been probably the 13th or 14th birthday. And then the following year, and I got some money from the bar mitzvah, and I put that towards getting a Nintendo, along with the Nintendo Entertainment System didn't come with Super Mario Brothers, and I didn't really care about getting that game. What I wanted to get was Castlevania. So I got Simon's Quest. My mom actually got it and brought it home. Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2, along with the Nintendo Entertainment System. And then after that, I had gotten perhaps another game. I know I got Metal Gear. I didn't have that many Nintendo games, but shortly afterward, I got the Teenage Mutant. I went with my dad to what was then called Carousel Mall, and I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. And I remember sitting down with him and testing him out on whether he could remember the names of the turtle characters. Um, that would have been 1990, probably 90 or 91, maybe. I definitely remember him visiting in 1991 because I took him to see Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, and he tended to have uh, funny remarks about um, people in general. I mean, like characters or whatever. And he would. I remember sometimes when he would. It was snow time. There was snow, and he voluntarily went out and shoveled snow. And he would go to the store, Nichols grocery store nearby, and he was retired at that point. I remember him sitting a lot of times in his chair and sipping tea and reading while eating peanut butter sandwiches. Um, he did that a lot, and he read. He would read. Just I want to even say law books. A lot of it was history, histories about certain cultures, and then that may have been the last visit he ever made, because after that, I remember somewhere in '94, I was approaching high school graduation, and I was walking with my mom, and I asked her if she knew whatever happened to him, and she said no. And then in 2010 or something like that, I was able to reach out and contact my childhood friend from Wetzel Road, close friend from Wetzel Road, and I'm glad that he hadn't changed that much in terms of personality. I was concerned about that, but he was just the way we got along, just the way I remembered. Thank goodness. And so I didn't lose a friend there. So he looked up. I remembered my dad being a lawyer. So, I mean, being told my dad was a lawyer, because at that point he was retired and we didn't live together. So I was going by what my mom had said. So he looked up online and found an obituary with my dad that mentioned he had been a lawyer, he'd been practicing, and I had done some research since then on my own, and I got his license number for being a lawyer in Massachusetts, and I found a couple of cases that he had been a practicing attorney, or I think it was Court of Appeals, and before that, I've done some digging. I found that he had been in the Army before that, and something I like to, I'm very proud of. I try not to brag to other people about, but I found that he had been in Massachusetts elementary school up through high school, and then I'm not sure if he went to college or not. I don't remember, but both houses of Congress nominated him, and then appointed, however it works. I think the Senate appoints, whatever, him to be vice consul to Singapore in 1950. I remember the year 1950 as being it. And that would have been a pivotal time for Singapore. So that linked up with the letters and boxes of books that he would send. He would send probably books on, like, Encyclopedia Brown books, and he would send letters, conversational letters to my mom, and cueing her in on what to share with me, and things on cryptography and history, a lot of history. I guess it's getting towards the end of lunchtime. I'll perhaps finish this later. I remember he would smoke a pipe, that distinctly, and he had a red sweater vest, and regular pants or jeans. He looked something like Ward Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver. Okay, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.